Hello and welcome to yet another episode of me reacting to fan-made cards. Today is a special episode because today I will be reacting to a set of cards made by community members that will all be joining the Dutch Open for Terraforming Mars that is held annually in Amersfoort in the Netherlands. So to all of my Central European friends, you can still register for this tournament. And yeah, there's also a card contest there. And there's just a general Terraforming Mars tournament. And from what I can tell from the messages I got from the organizer is that the winner will get a set of these fan-made cards. But let's get to these cards. The first one is Regrowth. It costs 4 MC, has an Earth tag on it. All right, and it is kind of similar to Crater Cleanup. What was that card called? Let's look for it live. Crash Site Cleanup, right? Yeah, Crash Site Cleanup, which required that someone removed some of your plants. And this one specifically requires that at least 3 of your plants got destroyed this generation. There are only a few cards that destroy less. I think, for example, Mining Expedition, and then there's also one in the expansions that requires a Jovian tag. Can't remember what it was called. Or you could just have less than 3 plants, and then someone plays something like Asteroid or whatever. So you need to lose at least 3 plants, and then it allows you to place a greenery tile. So this effect is much stronger than Crash Site Cleanup, which just gives you a point, some resources. This one grants you a whole freaking greenery, which is insanely strong. Also has an Earth tag on it, meaning that if you're playing Point Lunar, Director, or you have Earth Office down, it's even better. And I would say I would almost always pick this up if I see it in a draft. Of course, if your plants never get destroyed, you basically lose 3 MC. But if they get destroyed, and you can play a lot more reckless with this, because if they get destroyed, you can just place greenery for 4 MC, which is insanely good. So crazy value. Not quite sure if we could change this in a way that would make it balanced, because you would need to make it more expensive so it represents the benefit that you get from it in a better way. But at some point, it's just too risky to pick this up. Because if this card, let's say, costs 10, it's just 5 MC cheaper than Plantation, for example, then the risk of picking it up and not being able to play it doesn't really reflect the cost that you're paying to pick this card up. So yeah, it's an interesting concept. It's really strong if you can get it down, and I would probably always pick this up. Actually, I just noticed that I didn't start at the top of the list. So let's start with this card, Water Authority Tax. Costs 16 MC. You can only play it when there's a max of 4 oceans down. Has a building tag and then an effect similar to Martian Rails, where you pay 1 MC, not 1 MC, you pay 1 energy. It's an action, you pay 1 energy, and you get 1 MC for each greenery, city, or special tile adjacent to an ocean tile. It says each greenery, city, or special tile adjacent to an ocean tile, but then this should have a red outline to indicate that everyone's tiles get counted and not only your tiles. And if that's the case, everyone's tiles get counted, then this is just a much better version than of Martian Rails, because the spots, first of all, much more greeneries get placed than cities. Secondly, greeneries get placed earlier than city tiles usually, special tiles as well. And the tiles next to oceans are especially valuable and get placed early on as well. So I think this would be much stronger than Martian Rails, but I don't know if I would play this either way, because Martian Rails is really not great, and 16 is quite expensive. So if you're going for an early ground game strat with, for example, what's it called, towing a comet, imported hydrogen, flooding, like early ocean cards that allow you to convert greeneries. Then you maybe place also a city next there, you have nuke zone or stuff like that. Then water authority tax can definitely pay off, but you have to consider this costs 16 plus 3 to buy, and then also on average 7 to 8 MC for the power. So this is insanely expensive. You're also susceptible to getting tapped while you have this down, because you need running power for this to work. So yeah, I think it's stronger than Martian Rails, but I think it's still not great. I think it's too expensive for what it does. But let's get to the next one, which is vacuum insulation. It costs 12 MC. When you play a building tag, you get 2 insulation resources on this card. And then when you raise the temperature, insulation resources on this card can be spent as heat, maximum 4 insulation resources per action. All right, so you always need to combine heat with insulation. You cannot just use 8 insulation resources to increase the temperature. So you can only combine this with some heat prod, which is interesting, because you could probably accumulate quite a few insulation resources on here. But if you need to combine it with heat, then that's definitely a weakness of this card. There are quite a few building tags that give you heat prod. That's carbonate processing, mobile area, and then the bigger one of carbonate processing, GHG factories. Yeah, exactly that one. So these 3 cards would combo really well, because they basically just give you the heat prod, so you will always be able to combine it with vacuum insulation, and then they give you basically 2 heat instantly. Yeah, that's a great combo. And if you're playing like Mining Guild and going for some heat prod with these cards that I just mentioned, and then a lot more building tags as well, then vacuum insulation can pay back quite fast, I think. It's basically no, you can't. I wanted to say it's basically 2 heat prod, but no. It really depends on how many building tags you're playing, but you always need to combine it with heat prod. So really interesting concept. I like it. It also makes sense flavor-wise. You need to combine insulation with heat to make it. Don't know if it makes that much sense, because you don't want to heat up one room, you want to heat up the whole planet, right? But it's definitely interesting, and I think this is a really interesting concept. Yeah. Get to the next one though. Space debris. 6 MC cost. You need a minimum of 1 titanium resource. That's interesting. We never had something like that. So you need to have 1 titanium resource. I don't know if you need to have that when you play this card, but you can pay for the card with the titanium, because you can pay for it with titanium, or if you need to have it, the titanium left over after playing this card. So it's a space event, instant combo potential, of course. And then it's a hate card. Okay, every other player with space tags loses 1 MC per space tag. And this has a -1 point. That's, in my opinion, this is way too strong. Oh my god. Is it? In the 2P game? Wait a moment. No, I don't think so. How, like, if you have combo potential for this, like, if you have some space discounts and maybe rebates, what's the likelihood that your opponent will also have? So you're making this card a lot better with that, but what then is the likelihood that your opponent also has a lot of space tags? Because remember, a lot of space tags that you play or that are really good are space events, so they don't count for this. And is your opponent really also going for a Jovian strategy maybe? And how many space tags would be needed to make this card worth it? So let's say you're playing this for 9 MC, 6 to play and 3 to buy, 9 MC, plus let's say 4 MC for the point, so 13. So you need to, yeah, okay, no, this card isn't great. You need to remove 13 or more MC from your opponent. if you can combo this, like if you have space discount to make this cost 0, and then you have media group and optimal air braking, of course that can then make the card insanely good. But the negative point and the relatively high cost, how often does your opponent have 5 or more space tags? If you're playing with all of the expansions, where there's a lot more synergy and focus on space tags, then maybe. But I think this is probably too weak. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting flavor-wise, because basically people leave their debris in space. We already have this problem around the Earth, I think, and that all satellites and stuff. But I think it's probably too weak. It can be devastating. Like if your opponent has a lot of space tags and you have combo potential, then it can be great. But yeah, interesting concept for sure. Then Regrowth we already talked about. Let's get to Reclamation. Costs 3 MC, requires 6 ocean tiles, and has a building tag. And you remove 1 ocean tile. And this card cannot be played when Master's fully terraformed. So you can basically not prevent, like, your opponent ends the game basically and then passes, and then you play Reclamation, and you cannot turn back the fact that the game has ended already. So that's a good thing. But it still probably is a good card for someone who's going for a long game strat. If your opponent is rushing and really wants the game to end fast and you really need 1 more gen, then Reclamation can be really nice. There's like, for now, there's no way of doing this when you're of doing this actively by a player. There are events that do this, global events, when you're playing with Turmoil. There's no way of doing this as a player. And I think this is an interesting concept. Especially, like, one thing that also could be done is, like, let's say you draw this for free and has a discount. Or, like, even if you just draw it for free on Tharsis, for example, you play it for 3 MC, remove the ocean on the 2 cards, and then place an ocean there, and you draw 2 cards again. That could be a strat. But it's probably the most useful case of it would be to slow down the game. But that definitely could be a strat. But yeah, a really interesting concept. I'd love for a card like this in the game. I don't know if it can be that cheap, but interesting also that it requires 6 oceans. So you cannot do it in the super early game. But yeah, at the next one. New Holland. Okay, you notice that this set of cards is focused around the Dutch and the Netherlands. So yeah, costs 19 MC, requires a minimum of 4 cities. It's on Mars. Okay, that's immediately a limiting factor. But because especially in 2P games, there are quite a few games when 4 cities aren't even placed until the last gen or not at all. Has a city tag. It grants 3 MC prod. The thing is, 4 cities, especially in 2P, as I said, can be quite late, and then the 3 MC prod isn't even that useful. Place a city tile on top of an already placed ocean tile following normal city placement restrictions. I guess the ocean then still counts as an ocean. You kind of need to keep track of that. But this can be a really, really good late game card, because if your opponent in the early game use their greeneries to ocean walk, which happens quite often, like on Tharsis, you have a north ocean walk and a south ocean walk, and then if you get this card, there's no other way to place a city there. You can often snag at least 4 points there. 4 points for 19 plus 3. It's pretty good rate. The 3 MC prod is a nice bonus, but probably not that relevant. Card probably would be better if you just removed the MC prod and made it cheaper. But it fits in the theme with the other city cards that cost a little bit more than you would like to pay, but grant you MC prod. But yeah, interesting concept. It fits flavor-wise, because The Dutch have a habit of reclaiming land from the sea, but yeah. Let's get to the next card. New Amsterdam, okay. That fits as well. 24 MC. I haven't looked at these cards before, so I'm surprised here with the names and the flavor, but should be obvious. 24 MC, city tag and a building tag, so that fits in the theme with all of the other city tags, city cards. Same as with this, minus 1 power prod plus 2 MC prod. You gain an animal, you gain 2 plants. You place a city tile on an area reserved for ocean. If there are ocean tiles left, you must place an ocean tile on an area not reserved for ocean next to the city tile. This is interesting, but this card is way too strong. Jesus Christ. You get an ocean, which is worth between 15 and 18 MC, let's say it like that. You get a city tile, like the 2 standard projects alone cost 18 plus 25, or let's say 21 if you remove the MC prod from the standard city project. And then you also get 2 plants, so similar to Open City. You get an animal, which could be a point, also similar to Open City. This is really similar to Open City, but without the oxygen requirement, and you get a freaking ocean. Of course, you have weird placement restrictions. You need to place the city tile on an area reserved for ocean, and then you need to place the ocean next to it. So sometimes this can be really awkward, but sometimes this can also be really, really great. And I think this card is just heavily underpriced. This has to be much, much more expensive. Think about Mohol Lake, which gives you a heat bump, an ocean, and then you get either microbes or animals as an action, and you get some plants and stuff. That card costs more than 30. Let's look at it. Mohol Lake costs 31. You get a heat bump, an ocean, 3 plants, and then this action. This card here, New Amsterdam, should cost more than 30, definitely. This is way too close to Open City without the requirement and gives you a freaking ocean on top of it. Of course, less MC prod, but the ocean gives you 1 TR, which makes this 3 MC prod basically. So this is way too strong. But an interesting concept, again, to have a city tile on an ocean spot. And they solved the problem that you could prevent all oceans from being placed by requiring you to place an ocean next to the city on an area not reserved for ocean. So that's really a really interesting concept. I would love for a card like this to be in the game, but it needs to be much more expensive or have more requirements or whatever. This is just underpriced. But let's get to the next one, which is insurance policy. Costs 20 MC. Move the insurance policy from one of your production tracks to another of your production tracks. This production track cannot be decreased. This resource cannot be removed. Okay, so you have basically an instant effect, this one down here. So basically use, I guess, 2 small cubes, place them on 2 of your production tracks. And then these tracks cannot be, these resources cannot be removed. Either the resources or also the production cannot be lowered. And then you also have an action to move this stuff around. So maybe in the early game you want to save your titanium and steel or your power production from getting tapped. And then in the late game you want to save your money and your plants. That could be possible. The problem with this is I think it's way too expensive. I would never play this. Think about the other cards that prevent stuff like that. Protected Tabs, of course, that's one of the best cards in the game, costs 5. And there's also one in the expansions which just saves your plants, and then you also have an action where you can collect asteroids. That one costs between 10 and 20, I think. But again, this one can also collect points with these asteroids. Of course, with insurance policy, you are much more flexible, but I would never pay 20 for that. It's just crazy expensive for something that could happen, maybe. So it's just potentially that someone could hit you with a hate card. Like, think about playing Mohole area. Of course, you're worried about getting hit by heat trappers, but I would never follow up Mohole area with insurance policy, because then I double the cost of Mohole area. It's just way too expensive. This needs to be much cheaper. But interesting concept, especially with this moving around. But I also think the card would need to be clarified how you choose your production tracks. Do you place little cubes there? This needs to be specified. But a really interesting concept. Let's get to the next card, which is hydropower, and this one comes with a special tile as well. I think the special tile is also really well designed. Costs 24, has a power tag and a building tag. You get to place the hydropower special tile, and you get 2 points. Okay. The action says increase your energy production 1 step for each ocean adjacent to hydropower. Increase your MC production 1 step for each city adjacent to hydropower. All players increase their TR 1 step for each of their city tiles adjacent to hydropower. Okay, interesting. So you want to place this next to oceans, and you want to place this next to cities, because then you get power production and MC production each gen, because this is an action. And you also would like to place this next to your own cities, because then you also get TR. You would never want to place this next to opponent cities, or at least you would never want to place this next to opponent cities and then use the action, because then you give your opponents 3 points. You could do this like in the last gen or in the mid. You could even do this in the mid game if you have a lot of sea lying around, because it grants 2 points. And if you get it in like in a 6 pocket, next to 3 oceans and next to a city, you deny the spot from your opponent, and you get the money back. You get the 2 points. You get the 2 useful tags. So that could be a way of playing this, but you would never use the action then, even if you get. Wow! Wait, if you place it next to 3 oceans and one of your opponent's cities, then use the action, you get 3 power prod and 1 MC prod, but your opponent gets a TR. Well, that's an interesting trade-off. But think about doing that with your own city. Not only do you get 3 power prod and 1 MC prod, you also get TR, because it's your own city. It's a bit too strong, I think. Of course, it's a really expensive card, and you need to worry about how you place this. But I think in the best case scenario, this card is just insane. You get like the best case scenario that you probably can achieve quite often is next to 3 oceans and next to 1 of your cities. That would be the best case scenario. And then it's just insane. The card itself grants 2 points, and you get 3 power prod, 1 MC prod, and the TR each gen. I think what could be done to make this card balanced is you make this a one-time thing. And this would probably flavor-wise also make more sense, because it's production. And production, like you build a dam or like hydropower plant, and then once you build it, you get energy production and maybe also MC production. But then the production is just there. You don't get more of it the longer you have it. So basically, instead of making this an action, you just get 1 MC prod for each adjacent ocean, 1 power prod for each adjacent ocean, and 1 MC prod for each adjacent city. And then maybe also you just get a free TR and 2 points. You could trade probably, no, I think the price will be insanely good. Think about fusion power or tectonic stress power. They cost, like, fusion power costs 14, tectonic stress power costs 18, I think. They give 3 power prod. hydropower in that scenario also gives 3 power prot, 1 MC prot, 1 TR, 2 points. And doesn't have a requirement. I think at this state, this is way too strong. And instead of making this a one-time thing, you could also make this an action where you just get 3 power and 1 MC. Not prot, but like the bare resource. And then also have this TR thing in there. That could be a thing. Would still be an interesting card then. That can get better when more oceans and cities are placed around it. But yeah, interesting concept, just way too strong. We have environmental magnifiers. You can only play this when it's 5% oxygen or less and minus 18 degrees or less. Costs 18 MC. Building tech, and you need to decrease your MC production 2 steps. If you raise oxygen this gen, is this an action? Or an effect that gets triggered at the end of the gen? Let's say it's an action. So once per gen, you can, if you raise oxygen this gen, raise the temperature again, or raise the temperature. Or if you raise temperature, you can raise oxygen. And you cannot do both at the same time. So you cannot like raise temperature, oxygen, then use this action and raise temperature and oxygen again. You have to decide for one of both. In both cases, insanely strong. Really, really flexible. Let's say you're on your way to the oxygen bonus bump that gives you temperature. You increase the temperature, you have 8 plants, you convert your plants and use environmental magnifiers for a free oxygen bump and get the bonus bump out of that. Basically a free TR per gen. And it's better than a free TR per gen because it's temperature and oxygen that can get you bonus bumps and stuff. And also this helps enormously when rushing. Of course, the problem is 18 MC is quite a lot. The negative MC prot hurts quite a bit, especially when rushing. And yeah, it's a building tech, which is interesting, but especially when you're rushing, you won't have a lot of steel. So yeah, interesting card. It's really hard to judge if this is too strong or too weak. It's a really interesting concept though. Really, really flexible, insanely strong card for rushing. But you need to play it quite early, and then it's quite expensive. But yeah, pretty interesting concept. Let's get to the next one. Touch oven, perfect. 5 MC. I love a lot of these cards because they're so creative. Dutch oven is a special kind of pot, I think. Just fun. 5 MC cost, maximum of minus 6 degrees Celsius. Has a building tech on it. Increase your heat production 1 step for every special tile on Mars. All other players gain 1 heat. That's cute. All other players gain 1 heat. I like that. How many special tiles are there in the game? I mean, I think the expansions don't add special tiles, right? At least on Mars. There's a lot of cities that get placed off Mars in the expansions, but no more special tiles. In the base game, there's at least nuke zone, eco zone, natural preserve, restricted area, lava flows, industrial center, commercial district, mobile area. Does capital count as a special tile? Probably. With capital, that would be 9 special tiles. There's also, yeah, there's a few special tiles if you have the replacement cards. There's 4 more for demos, magnetic field generators. Yeah, quite a few of these cards. The thing is, because this grants heat prot, because this grants heat prot, you need to play this quite early. But even with just 2 special tiles on Mars, this grants 2 heat prot for 5 MC, which is really good value because 2 heat prot you also get from import of advanced GHG, which costs 9. So quite good value. And compared it to, of course, all other players gain 1 heat. Yeah, that also has some value for them, but 1 heat is not that much. And especially if they're not going for heat prot, then 1 heat is just insanely useless. Also, this is a building tech, which makes it easier to play and useful for builder. So I think this is quite a cute card. I think this is often worth it in the early game for maybe 2 or 3 heat prot. 3 heat prot, this would already be a really good deal. But it's definitely possible to get 3 heat prot. Like Natural Preserve is one that you want to play early, Restricted Area as well. Nuke Zone, Industrial Center, if someone plays this. There's also Mining Area and Mining, right? Of course. Yeah, I think this card is quite good. Of course, really situational. You won't want to play this in the late game, but it could be useful for swinging Thermalist, because if there's like 7 or 8 of these special tiles placed, and you play this in the second to last gen, for example, you get like 14 to 16 heat out of this for really, really cheap, especially if the draw is for free. Really, really cute card. I think I wouldn't change it. I think I like it like this. I also love the fact that all other players gain 1 heat. Great concept. Deforestation. Okay, this is really similar to the one we had earlier. Reclamation, which removes an ocean tile. Deforestation removes the greenery tile, but raises raises temperature 2 steps. Probably you're just burning down a forest. Costs 24. I think I don't like this card that much though. It's an interesting concept again, but I don't see the use case. Again, it could be used to stall the game if because this card doesn't say that you cannot play it once the terraforming is complete. So you could play this when terraforming is complete, just remove a greenery tile and forego the temperature steps, because you can also play asteroid, for example, once the temperature is maxed out, because it has another effect. So that would be possible, but it's quite expensive for that. And if you're not doing this to stall out the game, then you're not stalling out, like in that scenario, then you're not stalling out the game, because then you're raising temperature. 2 temperature bumps, of course, do have value. For example, lava flows costs 18. Of course, that also gives you a placement bonus. What you can do in the very late game, let's say it's last gen, and you know your opponent won't be able to place another greenery, you could remove 1 greenery between 2 or even 3 of the cities. Oh my god! Think about. There are a few use cases for this which are insane. Think about the case where the opponent has a perfect 3 city and 1 greenery, and you just play Deforestation, remove the greenery, you get 2 heat bumps as well, and then you place urbanized area in between. Oh my god! Okay, for use cases like the or commercial district or just any other special time. For use cases like that, you could even like combo the Deforestation with Nuke Zone and go for the bonus ocean as well, because that's 4 heat bumps. So for use cases like that, Deforestation can be insane, but it's not as good as Reclamation, or what that other card was called, for just stalling out the game, because you don't even lower the oxygen, right? True. Okay, that's okay. So my thought earlier of stalling out the game was misguided, because you just remove the greenery tile. You don't lower the oxygen, and then you raise the temperature 2 steps. Okay, so basically this has really limited use cases. Either you just have lots of money. This is then still better than just SPing 2 asteroids. You can have some combo potential or discounts for it. You can remove greeneries next to opponent cities, and then it has few use cases where it's really, really strong if you have special tiles, and especially urbanized area or commercial district on hand, and can really, really hurt one of your opponents. But yeah, interesting concept. I think we still have 2 more. Davin Museum. 17 MC, has an animal, microbe, and building tag, and requires, okay, it requires one city tile on Mars. That's down here, but then this city tile should have a red outline. So doesn't need to be your city, but yeah, needs a red outline up here. Grants a point. Gain 1 MC for every 2 microbes and every 2 animals in play. Again, if this says, if this is, okay, we need to ask a few questions. Microbe tags and animal tags, or microbe resources and animal resources? It's indicated that this is tags because it's round and not square. But then I would love this card to say microbe tags and animal tags in play. And then it also needs to clarify your microbes or and animals, or everybody's microbes and animals. I hope everybody's microbes and animals, otherwise this card would be really, really bad. But then again, it needs red outlines around these tags. How strong is this? If we assume any city, doesn't matter if it's yours or not, and then anybody's microbes and animals. It has, and wait, for every 2 microbes and every 2 animals in play. So this doesn't even trigger itself because it's 2 tags, but you need 2 microbes and 2 animals. So 1 and 1 doesn't work, like based on this text down here. So for this to pay back even 2 MC, you need 1 more animal and 1 more microbe in the game. Okay, microbes, let's say you're playing 3-player. At the end of the game, I'd say on average, everyone has around 2 animals and 3 microbes in play, maybe. On 3 players, that would be 9 microbes. Let's be generous. Let's say 10 microbes and 6 animals. So that would be 8 MC payback. For 17, 20 if you pay for the card. So you'd pay 12 for 1 point and a few nice tags here. Don't think this card is worth it. It's too expensive for what it does. Yeah, there will be situations where this card can pay back enough that you basically get a point for free. But then it's just not that insane. You could play this early to go for Ecologist, but it's really expensive for that. I think this card is too weak. I just think it's too weak. It needs to be cheaper, but then it's quite an interesting concept. And let's go for the last card, which is Constellation Price. 4 MC, plant tag and event tag, same like Harvest, and there's a few other in the game right now. Gain 1 plant for each space event with the ability to remove plants played by all players. Okay, so everybody looks through their, once this is played, everybody looks through their event piles and counts the cards that remove plants. This doesn't trigger itself because it doesn't remove plants. I think this card isn't particularly strong. I don't know if there's an effective way of counting how many, let's say just base game, and we want the event cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 cards that remove plants out of 200. This card doesn't do a lot. Nah. I mean, you cannot do, you could do just space events, but that would probably be too strong because then you could regularly get like 10 or 15 plants out of this. And it wouldn't make sense with the flavor. But I think it's just too weak. We could maybe fix this by saying 2 plants for every space event with the ability to remove plants played by all players. or even you say 3 plants for every space event with the ability to remove plants played by your opponents, because that would make more sense with the flavor text. I wasn't even a good target. But in the state it is right now, I think it's too weak. There are just too few cards that remove plants, especially if you play with more expansions. But I think I was told that these cards are based around only base game and preludes, but I'm not quite sure. I don't quite remember. But it's an interesting concept that needs a small buff to be really worth it. But yeah, I still like the idea. But yeah, those were all of the cards in this set that were created for the Dutch Open in September 2024. I have linked the page that you can register for the tournament down below in the description. So check it out if you are close to the Netherlands and are interested in joining. I think it's already the 3rd or 4th year of this event. So it's quite a nice community, I think. And definitely give them a look and see if you want to join and register for the tournament. And as always, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Fan-Made Cards. It was a special one. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one and goodbye.